So today's card has been made using some pattern paper and using the pierced squares to cut some papers out to make a tea bag folded design for the middle. So I've also used the Indonesian collection just to add a nice frame. So to make this card, I need a base colour. So for today's I'm going to use this navy. I need some patterned paper. So I printed this Sympathy one from a Knitwords collection called Sympathy. And I've used Navigator paper, which I got from Wilko's. It's a 120 GSM paper. And some white cardstock to make my Indonesian background. And it's all on an 8x8 card blank. So most of today is using my pierced squares. So I've used both set A and B. And you can use any size square to make the tea bag element itself, this bit here. But I'm going to show you my thought process on how to work out which squares to use when I'm using this background. So I'm only using this decorative bit from the centre of the Indonesian collection. And to start off, I know I was going to use my A1, which is the biggest square from the A set. So we're called A1 because it's from set A and it's number 1 in the set, to make a big matten layer. And then I'd go to my B1 to get that thin layer out of my decorative paper. Then the Indonesian collection was going to go in the centre. So I wanted a square, which would fit around this piece. So I wanted a thin border. So I went for this one, which I think is my B4. And that would cut my white border for the middle. So I wanted to take this base colour, the navy, to do a border there. So I'm just picking from the A set, the one which goes a little bit bigger. So this is A4. And then in the middle, I've got a grey here, which will be navy today. A navy square, which I just went through all my squares to find the one that would fit there. And it's my B7. So my papers are going to come in a little bit more for my tea bags. So I went to my A set and I've got my A8 there. Sounds complicated, but as soon as you just play around with the squares, so if you've got a different set of square dies, you can still work it out. That's how I worked it out. So I'm going to start off showing you how I got all my grey base layers, which will be navy today, from one piece. So I needed my big A, that one, and I need 2 of these centre ones because I got one there and one as a diamond. So how could I get all of those from the one piece of A4? So I cut my A1 out. Now I'm only going to see a tiny bit of the edge because the decorative paper is going to go on top. So I cut the A4 out of the centre. And there was just enough room on the bottom for me to cut both my B7s. So that's how I got them all from one piece. So this now can be stuck down onto my card. A lot of my 8x8 cards start off with A1 because it just frames things nicely and fits great there. So after A1, B1 will go next. That gives me just a little tiny border. So I've cut my B1 from my decorative paper. So you can see why I took this square out from the middle here, because it's all going to be covered. So now I've got my next navy square. Okay. So now I'm going to be using my Indonesian collection. So what I did was I cut the square out, then from that cutout I taped my Indonesian square on, sent it through the machine, and I ended up with that. Now it's up to you. If you want the navy, you can just stick it straight down, or you can get both these pieces out of an A4 piece. You can cut another white and back it on. I did this just so that my tea bag folded element would show up a little better. Now if I had more time I would put a few little blobs onto there as well, but I'm not going to bore you with that. So because both these squares were cut from the same die, they fit exactly on. And now we're just going to glue this onto that mat. So far it's just a bunch of matting and layering. So which dies you use doesn't really matter. Okay. So now I've got my two squares which will fit in the middle of that Indonesian background. I now need my tea bag pieces. So whatever size this die cuts, that'll be the size your tea bag element will end up. So if you imagine that there and that there, that'll be the size it all ends up being. Okay. So to make your tea bag, you will need to cut 8 of these squares. So I've cut them just slightly smaller than the navy, just so it shows up around the outside and just frames it nicely. So here we go with the tea bag folding. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. So I'm going to start off with the white up, and I'm going to fold to the corner. And I'm going to score it like that. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to go to the other corner. So you want your folds to be as accurate as you can. Then flip your paper over, and this time I'm going to fold it in half, corner to corner, that way, turn it and fold it the other way. So what you've done now is you've got a cross and a cross that way. And when I push it up, it'll want to fold in on itself to make a triangle. So once it's down, give it a nice crease. So you can leave it like that, and you can just tie them all together that way. But I'm going to go a little step extra. So we've got this folded bit here. I'm going to use that crease line, and I'm going to bring this corner sort of up to here. So it's that way. Now because we've got this crease line here, I can lift the left hand side up and bring it there. So if you look at that again, it started off here and I folded from here to the center fold line. And I'm going to do the same this side. So I can just keep my thumb there and bring that line to there. So it's made a kite shape. Okay, so we'll go through it one more time. So if pattern paper up, I'm gonna go corner to corner this way. So I'm making 4 squares. Flip it over. So I've got the white facing up now. I'm going to make triangles. So if you've got double-sided papers, whichever way you make your triangle, that'll be the pattern you will see. Okay. So now, I'm just going to fold in on both sides to make a triangle. Keeping all my folds nice and tight. I got my score line down there. Fold it up. Turn around and fold this one to the center as well. Just try and get your points to match up. And because we've used those pierce squares, you get a nice piercing all the way around your design. So you want to do that for all 8 pieces. Now rather than you watch me, I've already done them. There we are. So these now are all going to be interlinked like this to make a rosette. So the way I do it, I just open it up and I put some glue behind there and tuck them in so that they meet there. So lift this one up, spot of glue, lift it up. So you just work your way around. Now you will end up with a little gap in the middle. Don't panic about that. There's a little trick later on. Okay. So I'm coming to my last 2 now. So this one slots in. So my rosette is more or less finished. So I'm going to put the glue here. Slot this one in, lift this edge and put the glue just like the others, and that first one we used, we're just going to bring back and tuck in as well, and just give it a little squash, and there we have it, a tea bag rosette. Now it's up to you. If you don't want as much bulk, you can go in and you can glue all those bits down, but I quite like that 3D bit. That's not too bad in the middle with me. I'd get away with that, but if it's not that neat, put a brad in the middle and I'll just neaten the center. So now on the back, you can see the back's quite a nice pattern as well. That's what you'd get if you didn't do the kite folding. You would get that pattern. So for your first attempt, maybe that could be a nice, easier introduction. So I'm going to line this now onto one of my navy ones. So I'm using the 4 corners. Squeeze it down. Some more glue on the back. And this time we're going to do the diamond ones. And that's just giving you a little border to your tea bag rosette. And because we selected those dies so carefully, this will now fit inside our Indonesian background. As you can see, I left it there on this one, but I did make one at Christmas time and added a poinsettia down here. It's up to you. But this sympathy kit from Knitwits comes with a couple of embellishments which I can add on there. So I just printed these and cut them off. Just a bit quicker than doing flowers. And down here. So let's just tie them down a little bit. And there we have it. A nice, easy tea bag folded center, made nice and easy because of the dies. So if you did it years ago where you had to cut out your own tea bag papers and it never worked, it's probably because your measurements were off and your squares weren't perfect. But now the die does the work for us, and I don't think it shows up much on camera, but because we use that pierce squares, the whole design just follows through with lots of piercing. Thanks for watching. Hope you give it a go.